Hey Celtics fans, what if I told you the move that nobody expected could be the one that saves this entire season? Picture this, the Boston Celtics, fresh off a championship, suddenly without Jayson Tatum, with Al Horford's future hanging in the air, and a glaring hole at the center spot. Now imagine the front office pulling the trigger on a shocking negotiation, sending out a $100 million guard, and bringing back a two-time All-Star who could anchor the paint and give Jaylen Brown the perfect partner to keep the title dream alive. Does this sound impossible, or is this the exact twist that could change everything for Boston? Stick around, because what we are about to reveal might not just reshape the roster, it could redefine the entire journey of the Celtics. And before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a like so you never miss the biggest stories that shake the green and white. Boston Celtics have been one of the most carefully constructed franchises in basketball over the past decade, yet the situation they are facing right now is unlike anything this organization has dealt with in recent years. On the surface, the roster looks balanced enough to stay competitive, but the cracks are beginning to show in ways that the average fan might not see until the season is well underway. And that is why whispers around the league suggest that a move both risky and electrifying could soon take shape. A move that could see Boston cutting ties with a $100 million guard only to bring in a two-time All-Star who might be the missing piece Jaylen Brown needs by his side while Jayson Tatum recovers. Think about what this means. In the span of just a few months, the Celtics have gone from celebrating a championship to reimagining what their future could look like. Jayson Tatum will be out for a significant stretch. Al Horford has not signed anywhere and could very well choose a different destination, and the franchise does not have a reliable starting center who can anchor the paint against the giants of the Eastern Conference. If Boston simply sits and waits, the season could slip away. If they act boldly, the story could be very different. And here is where the conversation gets fascinating. Recently acquired Anthony Simons is a player with enormous talent, capable of filling up the box score and thriving as a secondary creator, but his fit in Boston is not set in stone. He comes with a contract worth $100 million, and with the second tax apron already hanging like a sword over the franchise, the front office is forced to ask a hard question. Does Simons represent a core piece of the future, or is he the perfect trade chip to address the hole that could define the season? Now picture this. Chicago has been searching for a new direction for years. Their roster is clogged with guards. Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, Trey Jones, all competing for minutes and touches. Adding Simons into that mix would make sense if they value his scoring and youth more than some of their current options. It would allow them to reset around players who fit their timeline better. On the other side, Boston would finally get a solution at the position that has haunted them all summer. Nikola Vucevic, a veteran center with size, shooting touch, and the ability to play heavy minutes against elite frontcourts. Yes, Vucevic will turn 35 next season, but that is exactly what makes this negotiation so intriguing. His age makes him expendable for Chicago, who is chasing youth and flexibility. His contract, which runs into the tens of millions, is not something they are committed to long-term. And most importantly, he still produces at a level that would immediately change the way Boston can match up in the playoffs. It is the classic case of two teams with mismatched timelines finding common ground. But let us not reduce this to a simple swap of names. The stakes are far greater. Boston is staring down a season where Jaylen Brown must carry the offensive load for months. Without Tatum drawing double teams, Brown will need space and stability. A skilled big man like Vucevic, who can score on the block and stretch the floor, would give him exactly that. It would change how defenses load up on Boston, and it would allow coach Joe Mazzulla to keep his offensive identity intact without reinventing the system mid-season. The numbers make this even more compelling. Josh Giddey just signed an extension worth $100 million, which makes it nearly impossible for Chicago to commit to bringing Vucevic back beyond this year. Both Vucevic and Simons are set to become free agents after the season, which means both franchises can treat this as a one-year experiment. No long-term commitment, just an opportunity to test what works. For Boston, that trial run could be the difference between a wasted season and another banner. There's also the psychology of the locker room. Imagine how Jaylen Brown would react to the front office making such a move. After years of playing the role of co-star, he finally has the chance to lead. By giving him a veteran center who can absorb defensive attention and provide stability, the Celtics would be signaling their full belief in his ability to guide the team through this storm. It would be a vote of confidence that could elevate his game even further. And consider the message it sends to the league. While other contenders are waiting, Boston would be making a daring adjustment. It would remind everyone that the Celtics are never content to stand still. They won a championship not by playing it safe, but by taking calculated risks. Trading for Vucevic would be another example of that philosophy, a declaration that even in adversity, they are chasing greatness. Skeptics might point to Vucevic's age, or to the idea that Simons has untapped upside. But here is where the curiosity deepens. How often do you get a chance to acquire an all-star level center at exactly the moment you need one, without sacrificing your long-term flexibility? How often do the financial structures of two teams align so perfectly that a deal almost begs to be made? This is not about mortgaging the future. It is about seizing the present. And if you are a fan of Boston, the question becomes unavoidable. Would you rather watch another year of uncertainty at the center position, praying that Ninias Quetta blossoms into a reliable starter, or would you rather plug in a proven 20-point scorer and double-double machine who has been waiting for a team with real championship aspirations? That is the kind of decision that separates franchises who contend from those who merely survive. The Boston Celtics are at a crossroads. The calendar reads 2025, but the urgency feels like the closing seconds of a tied playoff game. Every possession matters, every decision carries weight. Anthony Simons might be an exciting addition, but Nikola Vucevic could be the stabilizing force that keeps this championship window open while Jayson Tatum heals. So keep watching the headlines. What looks like a simple trade rumor might be the spark that defines the entire season. The Celtics could very well shock the league again, sending out a $100 million guard and bringing in a two-time All-Star who knows exactly how to thrive in high-pressure moments. If that happens, Boston will not just be surviving Tatum's absence. They will be rewriting the narrative of what is possible. Boston may be standing on the edge of a decision that looks reckless on the surface, but could prove visionary in hindsight. In the previous scenario we explored, the Celtics were weighing the idea of moving a $100 million guard for a proven all-star big man, a move designed to stabilize the present while Jayson Tatum recovers. Now the conversation shifts to something even more daring, a negotiation that could involve sending out a $125 million championship star in exchange for a young forward with untapped potential. It sounds shocking, almost unthinkable, but this is where the reality of the new financial era collides with the hunger to remain at the top. The offseason of 2024 was nothing short of chaotic for Boston. The championship roster that had just conquered the league was dismantled with speed that stunned even season insiders. Drew Holiday, gone before the draft. Kristaps Porzingis, moved in another calculated transaction. Veterans like Luke Kornet and Al Horford departed in free agency. To the casual fan, it might appear that Boston has lost control of the narrative, but to those watching closely, this is the front office playing chess while everyone else is still playing checkers. Why would the Celtics even consider placing Derrick White, a $125 million guard and a cornerstone of their recent success, into trade conversations? The answer is not simple, but it begins with the second apron, the financial mechanism introduced in this collective bargaining agreement that punishes success in ways the league has never seen before. Boston has reached a point where every dollar spent comes with consequences. Trading White is not about abandoning talent, it is about recalibrating resources in pursuit of sustained dominance. And here is where the curiosity intensifies. Golden State, a franchise with its own legacy of championships, is circling Jonathan Kuminga, a forward they're prepared to keep with a 2-year deal worth $45 million. Yet whispers suggest that the Warriors would be open to a package that sends Kuminga east if it means acquiring Derrick White, a player whose defensive tenacity and playoff poise could breathe new life into their fading dynasty. For Boston, the idea of swapping a veteran star for a developing forward is far more complex than it appears. Jonathan Kuminga is not just another young player. At only 23 years old, he represents something rare in today's league, a blend of athletic explosiveness and untapped skill that has never been fully unleashed in Golden State's rigid system. He has lived in the shadow of Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, forced into roles that limited his ability to showcase the breadth of his talent. Boston could offer him the one thing Golden State never did, a runway free of suffocating expectations where he could evolve at his own pace. Critics will argue that White is too important to let go, that moving him would weaken Boston's immediate title chances. But let us look deeper. In a season where Jayson Tatum is sidelined for months, Jaylen Brown becomes the unquestioned centerpiece. Around him, the Celtics do not necessarily need another guard consuming possessions. What they desperately need is size, versatility, and youth that can grow into a two-way force. Kuminga checks all those boxes. He does not arrive as the finished product, but as a project with the potential to redefine the future core. And remember, Boston has consistently proven that they are not afraid to play the long game. Years ago, they were ridiculed for stockpiling draft picks, for waiting instead of chasing splashy trades. Those very decisions led to Tatum and Brown wearing green today. Could this be another moment where patience and vision outweigh the comfort of stability? There's also the hidden layer of financial strategy. By moving White, the Celtics would relieve pressure from the second apron, creating flexibility that could allow them to extend other young talents, explore mid-season acquisitions, or even position themselves for a blockbuster deal when Tatum returns. It is not just about who wears the uniform in October of 2025, it is about who will be leading Boston in 2026 and beyond. Imagine Kuminga thriving in a system designed to maximize athletic wings. Imagine him slashing to the rim alongside Brown, running the floor in transition, and learning the nuances of spacing from one of the most analytically minded coaching staffs in the league. It is not about replacing Derrick White, it is about transforming the roster into something more sustainable, more dynamic, and more adaptable to the demands of the modern NBA. And yet the biggest question remains: are the Celtics willing to take this leap? Are they prepared to gamble a proven commodity for a player who represents possibility rather than certainty? These are not easy questions, but championship franchises are not built on comfort. They are built on calculated risks, on bold decisions that others are too afraid to make. For fans, this scenario is both terrifying and exhilarating. On one hand, you risk losing a player who has become synonymous with toughness and reliability. On the other, you could be welcoming a young star whose ceiling has not even been touched. The beauty of this negotiation is that it forces Boston to define its identity. Are they the team that clings to what is known, or are they the team that once again dares to surprise the league? The truth is that Jonathan Kuminga may never have this kind of opportunity again. If he remains in Golden State, his growth could continue to stall. But in Boston, under the spotlight of TD Garden, with the mentorship of Brown and eventually Tatum, he could blossom into the kind of two-way forward that every contender dreams of. So when whispers grow louder about a $125 million championship guard potentially being moved for a young forward still carving his place in the league, do not dismiss it as fantasy. Consider it for what it really is, a crossroads where the Celtics must choose between protecting the present and embracing the future. And if history tells us anything, is that Boston has never been afraid to take the path that others fear to walk.